What makes a family? If you're going by older standards, it could be 2 parents, 2 kids, and maybe a family dog. This is known as the nuclear family, which was most popular 50 years ago during the 60s and 70s. But what makes a family by 2021 standards? Is it your chosen family, such as close friends? Is it your biological family, such as parents, siblings, cousins, and so on? In this picture is me, my mom, and my younger sister. We are considered a family through biological relation. In this picture is my mom, her adopted brother, and her adoptive parents. They're also considered a family. From a young age, my mom, Jodi, was acutely aware that she was adopted and desired nothing more than to find her biological family. She wanted to know where she came from.
I was raised in a Catholic community, and actually the agency that facilitated my adoption was Vermont Catholic Charities, and it definitely is, or at least was, looked down upon to get pregnant out of wedlock and not be able to raise the child that you're pregnant with. As I've always known that I was adopted, my parents always told me and made sure I understood that from a very young age. I was also taught that was something that I should never do, and that my biological mother did a very shameful thing, and thank goodness that my parents were there to adopt her baby. I don't ever remember not being interested in finding my biological family. And I remember when I was 11, I had a very serious conversation with my mom. It was on my birthday, and I asked her if she knew who my biological parents were, and she said she chose not to find out. And I remember that I was very angry with her when she said that, because I felt like she had made a choice to not learn things that I might want to know about later, and I didn't think that was fair. It all started with my younger daughter having family tree assignment in school, which I guess most elementary kids get to do, and we didn't really have a lot to go on. So that was the genesis for actually taking action and doing a DNA test with Ancestry.com. I'd been thinking about it actually for a few years, and COVID quarantine time had started, and I had the time to go through that, and so I did. The first name was a man named Larry Hutchins of Brandon, Vermont. I contacted him via the platform for Ancestry.com, and his granddaughter, Jasmine, was the person that was organizing and I guess just dealing with that whole process, because Larry Hutchins was older than a grandfather.
Our family was going through kind of a similar situation as your mom. So when your mom reached out through my grandfather's Ancestry DNA page, I was more than happy to help with what I knew. I was excited to meet her and talk with her and help her as much as I could.
He could be a half uncle, or he could be a cousin, and we didn't really quite know. So using the family tree, we started trying to narrow that down.
My grandfather knew some connections, but the family's not super close. So we pieced together what we could. I got my aunt involved, which is Elizabeth or Rosie Hutchins, because she knew a little bit more of the family connections.
When I first found out about it, my niece Jasmine had told me. And so my resource to help her and get more information was to go to my father. My father's name is Lawrence Hutchins. He is what I consider the old Vermonter. He's no nonsense, straight to the point. You work hard, you raise your family, and I don't know. I just think he's awesome.
The DNA numbers showed that one possible way that we could be related was as a half uncle. And that would mean that one of his half siblings would have been my biological father. So we explored Wayne and William Hutchins, and
we thought it might have been my father's half brother. We called him Bub Hutchins, but his real name is William. When I talked to Jodi, she said that her mom said his name was Bob, and it's really close to Bub. So we thought it was him at first. And unfortunately, he did not have a lot of interest, and then he passed away shortly thereafter.
I was actually able to get Wayne Hutchins to take a DNA test. He also came up as a half uncle or second cousin, which meant that neither he or his brother William Hutchins would have been possible candidates for fatherhood. We went up to Vermont. We met all of the Hutchins, and we did a lot of brainstorming and thinking about this family that had a lot of half-siblings and second marriages and some infidelity, and we were trying to figure out who any of the possible suspects could be. But it wasn't until our drive home when we managed to stop by and visit with another genetic cousin, I'll say, because we don't know exactly how he was related at that point in time, where we got a promising lead.
When I first saw Jodi, I had the same impression that I had the second I saw her picture for the first time, as I knew she was my cousin. Basically I didn't have any preconceived notions or anything going into it. I just felt like we were family the instant that I met her and she came into my office. Of course, we'd already had the DNA proof at that point, so we knew we were related. It was kind of funny when I met Jodi and her daughters in my office, and we had talked about the journey that she had been on at that point. I just knew in my heart that she was barking up the wrong tree. The people that she assumed was her father and that she was having to take tests and stuff, I knew it was the wrong branch of the family. I knew it was going this way instead of this way, up to where she should be going. And that was just a gut instinct. And from just who she was, her facial features and whatnot, I just knew that she was going up the wrong tree when we were talking about one of her relatives that she had sent a DNA test to or whatever, and he just passed away and not able to get information.
Tony suggested that Douglas Bucher, nicknamed Pedro, who was Tony Flanders' much older cousin, could be a possible candidate based on my resemblance to him in Tony's memory. Initially, when he said it to me, I had not seen the picture that he had of Douglas Bucher. It seemed kind of a left field idea, but he seemed very certain just based on my appearance. He said, "You look just like my cousin Pedro." And I said, well, a lot of people look like each other. But then he did take out a photo of Pedro, Douglas Bucher, at that time. I think it was like an eighth grade class picture. And I looked at it and it was very eerie to look at this picture because I could pick out all of these features in his face that were like looking at my own face. And for that second, I said, this could be the right answer. I think it was that following week after this trip to Vermont, I was at work. I'm a nanny, and I was making one of the kids' beds. And I had texted my biological mother earlier in the day asking if she recognized this picture of this eighth grader, Douglas Bucher. I said, "Does this person look familiar to you?" And her reply came back in a text that he was very familiar and that he was someone that she was involved with just before she said that she got pregnant with me. And when she said that, when she admitted that, then I was certain that this was the person that I was looking for. So in order to figure out, because unfortunately Douglas Bucher passed away in 1991 from a massive heart attack, I was able to access the death certificate using Ancestry.com. But I did, with Tony's help, figure out that Douglas Bucher had some nieces, and those were the daughters of his older brother, Charles William. And so I was able to get in touch with both of them. I got in touch with Marianne. Then she was able to put me in touch with Danielle, her younger sister. And Danielle told me, when I finally got to talk to her, that she does have a cousin who was a biological child of Douglas Bucher, and her name was Crystal. And so I said, very excitedly, "Can you get me in touch with her?" and she said she would try. I immediately got off the line and sent her a message through Facebook Messenger. She did reply, and she was surprised. But I was able to give her all the background information that I had collected over the last several months and able to show her the DNA tests that I had back so far. So I think at that point, she was willing to accept the possibility that her father had another biological child. Over the next couple of days, we became Facebook friends and we had the opportunity to see pictures of each other. And I think that was what made it seem she was definitely my half-sister, because our resemblances are stark. For me, I'm a really open person, and I try to live my life without too many secrets. So if I had to advise a young pregnant woman now about what to do, I wouldn't say, either way, whatever they wanted to do would be fine. Open adoption, closed adoption, keep the baby, raise your baby, do shared parenting. I think whatever works. But for me, just knowing what it was like in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s in Vermont where I grew up, the best case scenario, and Jodi Rousseau Danforth, my biological maternal grandmother, shared this belief that big picture wise, it was definitely the right thing for me to be adopted, because it would have been messy with all the people that were involved 44 years ago. And this is the best case outcome for an unplanned pregnancy.